My investigations have taken me to dozens of countries, but until recently, one of the most interesting wasn't open to scrutiny. It's long been rumored that Russia harbors psychic talent like nowhere else in the world. The country has an ancient mystical tradition.
Good morning.
Good morning,
And the
sir.
government has encouraged psychic research.
To Moscow?
That's right.
Any luggage to check in, sir?
2 pieces.
Now that the country is open to visitors, I wanted to check things out for myself. I had seen the films that came out during the Cold War. Juna was a famous healer who had Brezhnev as a client. Karl Nikolaev could apparently turn on lights with the force of his will. The most famous Russian psychic is no longer living. Her name was Nina Kulagina. During a long career, she appeared to move all sorts of things through the power of her mind. Now that the media are no longer strictly controlled, there's a vast new audience for the paranormal on Russian television. Every night, a program called The Stars Speak precedes the news with an astrological forecast. The psychic Kasparovsky has even used television to demonstrate his claimed ability to control pain. In this case, during a live operation. There are even commercials that extol the miraculous. During the Cold War, both the Soviets and the Americans carried out research on psychic warfare. At one time, there was fear in the Pentagon about a psychic or psi gap. The Russians claimed some success with psychic mind control, but their evidence was sketchy.
Там вот зеленая, под нею.
So I was interested to find that scientists at the prestigious Institute of the Brain in Moscow had reported measuring psychic effects under test conditions. I arranged to observe the experiment.
Так, сюда.
Прописалась?
Сейчас, подожди.
The data they'd collected in their test seemed promising.
I think we could see the same effect. You see, this is just before.
It appeared that the psychic had been able to change the brain waves as well as the blood pressure of the test subject. If these results could be confirmed, it would be a real breakthrough for parapsychology. To make sure that the scientist would not know what the psychic was doing, it was agreed that he would be isolated in a remote wing of the complex. Since it was founded in 1926, the Institute has been a national center for the study of the brain, but much of the work done here had until recently been kept secret.
Sit down, please.
The psychic's name was Ignatchenko.
Very good.
According to parapsychologists in Moscow, he was the real thing.
All right, we now have a little over 1 minute before we will start the selection process.
Через чакры, окей?
Accompanying him was Zoya, his assistant.
Пишите, как там, меня повлияли.
The experiment would last an hour, broken down into 4 15-minute tests. During each test, Ignatchenko would attempt to change either the subject's brain waves or his blood pressure.
Медленно выйдет.
Or he might be asked to do nothing at all.
Now he reaches inside and he takes one of these at random.
At the beginning of each test, Ignatchenko randomly determined what he would do.
What do we have?
Ноль.
That is the null. Okay, so we do nothing. for 15 minutes.
Ничего не делаем.
For the first segment, Ignatchenko would not attempt any kind of influence.
This will be like a control.
Это контроль такой.
So,
The scientists began their measurements, unaware of the psychic selection. For phase 2, Ignatchenko chose a heart symbol. He would try to change the subject's blood pressure.
Повышаем давление.
We are raising the blood pressure,
Поднимает малого таза.
beginning from the pelvis and working along the backbone.
Until there's burning in the backbone. That's enough. There's no need to go any further.
The spreading has already started.
Еще.
Phase 3, the brain.
Голова. Любимое место.
Ignatchenko would try to change
Okay.
brain waves.
Стимуляция.
Stimulation,
Гипофиз.
the pituitary.
Стимуляция гипофиза.
Stimulation of the pituitary.
Вот так, нормально. Вот.
Окей.
Like that. Good, like that.
The fourth and last test would again focus on changing brain waves.
Ну, теперь у нас будет
He will now be very
солнечная
smart. We have stimulated both the right and left brain.
When the experiment was complete, the scientists examined their measurements for changes in the subject's brainwaves and blood pressure. Any variation from normal would indicate a psychic influence. All right, now let's handle them one at a time. What is our conclusion in test number 1? If you remember, during the first test, Ignatchenko had done nothing.
Ну, давление вот очень такое.
Может быть давление.
It could be the blood pressure.
Многократные эксперименты по одному эксперименту не сильно.
The scientists saw a change in the subject's blood pressure. Then, number 2,
Не сильно.
in test 2, Ignatchenko had tried to change blood pressure.
Не может быть двойного влияния.
In
Скорее всего,
test,
второе на мозг.
The effect was on the brain. I think so. Sergei may disagree.
this time they detected a change in his brain waves.
Да,
Now,
да.
what do we think on 3 here?
В третьем давление, на давление, ну,
With some disagreement, they called the next test correctly for the brain.
Maybe we're brain in third case.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. That's brain. What about number 4?
Четвертый.
The last test had been another attempt to change brain waves.
None. Nothing.
None. Okay. That's no. But the scientists found no change at all. All right. Shall we announce the results then?
Сказать, что на самом деле было.
The experiment had produced one positive result out of 4. Just what would be expected by chance alone. Not very convincing evidence.
Значит, во втором случае вы
So what
говорите,
about their
что
previous
было
claims?
воздействие на мозг,
I had an idea what might be at work here.
воздействие на давление.
I suspected that in the past, when they examined their data, they had known what effect they were looking for. In scientific lingo, that the test had not been blinded. They confirmed this, raising the possibility that their previous work had not been objective.
Look to see some correlation.
But one of the group believed that the problem lay elsewhere.
I feel strongly that it is impossible to accurately measure these extrasensory phenomena by observing electrophysiological indicators because the methods are too crude.
этот метод очень груб.
But remember that modern methods, no matter how complicated, technical, and technically perfect and advanced, are of no use whatsoever unless it is conducted in a double-blind fashion. Of course, the results of a single test are in no way conclusive. But one thing I've learned over the years is that scientists, like the rest of us, have an uncanny ability to find what they're looking for, whether it's there or not.
Could see only influence in respect of visual stimulation.